Pro. He's going to be talking about the automated inventory counts in Sage 100. And we also have Tom Wilson. Thank you very much, Tom, a product specialist, special guest with us. He'll be discussing Sage Inventory Advisor. And just a little bit about the companies to get started. CertiPro Solutions has been in the Sage 100 space for 25 plus years, and they're based in Los Angeles. And they have a couple different integrated solutions, and this integrated solution here is one of their most popular solutions, automated inventory counts. That also works with Sage 100, 500, and X3. So we also have Andy Tatayan. He's a principal over at CertiPro Solutions, and he'll be helping us answer questions at the end of the presentation. So he's here to help support. And then we also have Sage Inventory Advisor, and it's a cloud-based application that enables companies to accurately forecast future demand of products and place optimal purchase orders in minutes. It has a dashboard that provides the visibility of your inventory and what needs to be ordered and what not. So we're just going to go ahead and talk about Sage Inventory Advisor first, and then how that data can be used for inventory counting. So I'm going to go ahead and let Tom get started. Thank you so much, Tom.
Oh, thank you, Adrian. So bear with me 1 second while we switch to the PowerPoint. Okay, so as Adrian said, my name is Tom Wilson. I work for Sage, and I'm what's called a product specialist for the Inventory Advisor solution. So I really appreciate your time today. Hey, what I have is a very short PowerPoint introduction that'll introduce the concepts of a planning tool, compare and contrast that to your Sage 100 ERP platform. Then I'll pull up a live instance of Inventory Advisor and give a quick navigational tour and do a little drill down into some detail. And then we'll turn it back to Adrian and we'll look at CertiPro's solutions. But I'm going to go to the next slide, and it says, what is Sage Inventory Advisor? An Inventory Advisor is an example of a connected service. And one of the things Sage is trying to do is to enhance the investment our customers have made in our ERP platforms, of which Sage 100 is one of our flagship products, by offering solutions that complement or extend that investment. And more, our customers are asking that these extensions be deployed in a cloud or internet-enabled environment so that you can access it 24/7 from any device, any browser. And because planning tools can be quite expensive, even price prohibitive if you had to pay the full license fee up front. So instead, Sage has put Inventory Advisor on a month-to-month subscription. In fact, there is no long-term commitment. Your only commitment is the first month. And anytime after the first month, if this doesn't work out, you can terminate the subscription. But it is a planning tool. It's an inventory planning tool designed to optimize your inventory. It'll pull rich transactional data out of your Sage 100 system, but pull it into an industry best practice and analytic engine to analyze your inventory to recommend stocking and replenishment levels. And for any given stocking location, it'll identify what your inventory is, recommend what it should be given the demand and lead time, identify any items you have too much of, what impact that could have on your business, and are there any items you're out of, and what impact could that have on customer service or sales. And if you're making those kinds of decisions now with manual tools and reports, this will not only automate that, but automate it based on industry best practice and analytics. In fact, if you look at your current Sage 100 system, it does a pretty good job keeping track of what your current inventory is, what's in stock, where the items are located, on-hand balances, keeps track of thousands of transactions, hundreds of details, and everything in between. But that system doesn't necessarily answer the question, is that what should be in stock? Does a pretty good job keeping track of what it is, but doesn't answer the question, is that what should be there? And most of our customers need to make those decisions outside of Sage 100, especially given the demand for the items and lead time from the suppliers. And making those decisions outside of Sage 100 with planning tools and reports and spreadsheets can often result in some inventory challenges. In fact, 42% of our customers have said they struggle with stocking out of inventory, running out of items that could impact customer service and sales. 37% have said by using manual tools, they tend to overstock, end up with excess inventory and money tied up in working capital that could be used for other things. And 21% have said they just, in addition to those two problems, they just spend way too much time with manual tools and reports trying to figure out what that inventory should be, what the replenishment should be, and when they need to place orders. And that's what Inventory Advisor brings to the table. It does not replace anything in Sage 100. In fact, it needs that rich transactional data from Sage 100 to feed the planning engine. But what Inventory Advisor brings to the table, above and beyond anything in Sage 100, is inside the circle. And it starts first and foremost with a forecasting engine. It's pretty hard to determine what your inventory should be if you don't have a pretty good profile of your demand into the future. So it has a very robust forecast engine, and I'll show you that in the software. It has an ordering and scheduling engine. So for every item, whether it's a finished good that you make or a raw material that you purchase or a finished good that you buy and resell, Inventory Advisor will recommend a minimum stocking level, a maximum stocking level. It'll calculate a reorder point. Then given the demand for the item, lead time from your supplier compared to your stock on hand and any orders you might already have in the system, it'll recommend when you need to place additional orders to keep that inventory at an optimal level. And if you are starting to run out of an item or you have too much of an item, it will alert you, especially for those items that are critical to your business. And at the end of the day, what most of our customers have told us when they do turn this on is of their existing inventory. Typically, 2 to 10% is in some kind of a stocked out status, whether you're out of an item or about to run out of an item, but that could impact customer service and sales. 10 to 15% of their existing inventory is in some kind of a surplus environment. You have more inventory than you need, money tied up in working capital that could be used for other things. And roughly half of a planner's time is not necessarily spent making planning decisions, but spent pulling together the information, running reports, maintaining spreadsheets so that you can make planning decisions. So Inventory Advisor will not replace the planner, will not replace your expertise of your industry or your company, but what it will replace is the manual tools and reports that you might be using with something much more automated based on industry best practices and analytics. And if you can eliminate stockouts and improve customer service and sales, if you can eliminate excess inventory and free up the working capital, and if you can give planners tools that give them more productivity and efficiency, the ROI, especially against a monthly subscription, can be quite substantial. So that's a quick introduction to Inventory Advisor. Again, it's a planning tool to identify what your inventory stocking levels should be and when you should replenish, and it's based on transactional data from Sage 100. So I'm going to switch gears and pull up a live instance of Inventory Advisor. In fact, if you follow my little cursor, I'm wiggling it in the upper left, I am on a live instance of Inventory Advisor. I happen to be using Internet Explorer, but this looks exactly the same on Safari or Chrome, whether I'm on an iPad, iPhone. I've shown this on my iPhone. Inventory Advisor is highly scalable. We have customers with less than $100,000 of inventory using this tool. We've got customers with over 50 million. My demo database happens to have about 10, just to give you a feel for the scale. But I'm going to go ahead and shrink the menu bar so that we can see the full screen. And when you first log into Inventory Advisor, you do see what's called a dashboard. And what a dashboard is a high-level summary. Think of it as a macro view, a bird's eye view, if you will, of all the inventory at any given stocking location. If you have multiple locations, those are data or stocking locations in Sage 100. Those are loaded into Inventory Advisor, and you can toggle between them. In my demo database, I have 4 physical locations. You can even set up a virtual location if you want to plan inventory in it. But my main stocking location is Los Angeles, and I'm going to pick on Los Angeles to illustrate the dashboard. And again, what we're looking at is the dashboard for all of the inventory in Los Angeles. And the idea of the dashboard is with a quick glance, you'll be able to see the health of your inventory and areas that need attention. And from here, you can drill into lots of detail to make decisions. Now, let me just walk you through the panels. There are 6 panels. The first is called Stock Holding, and it shows that right now in Los Angeles, you are carrying $10.4 million of inventory, and this is across finished goods, raw materials, $10.4 million of inventory at your cost, but the planning tool is recommending you should be carrying 6.9. That would be based on the demand for the items and lead time from the suppliers. That would be the optimal inventory to fulfill that demand. You can see how your inventory has been trending over time. Each of these bars represents a period of time. There are 12, and they can be displayed in days, weeks, or months. So you can see how your inventory has been trending over the last 12 weeks, the last 12 months. I'll just leave it at weeks, and here's how your inventory has been trending over the last 12 weeks. Yellow is 12 weeks ago, and if I hover, at that time you were carrying $10.8 million of inventory. You can see how your inventory has been trending, in this case over the last 12 weeks. The top of the blue bar is your actual inventory. The shaded area is the recommended or model inventory. So I can see how that's been trending over the last 12 weeks, with red simply being the last time data was loaded from Sage 100, which typically was yesterday, at which time you were carrying 10.4. against a recommendation of 6.9. So with a quick glance, I can see I've got quite a bit more inventory than the tool is recommending. In fact, if I slide over to the next panel, you do have some excess stock, which is defined as inventory above the maximum recommended stocking levels. And right now in Los Angeles, there are 2,190 items in excess, and the value of that excess inventory is costing your business $3.4 million. And if I hover where it says 3.4, or I can get a full report. That is an online report of all 2,190 items in excess. And from that list, I can slice, filter, sort that list into more manageable items. But on the dashboard, we're trying to bring your attention to the top 5. Out of all the items in excess, these are the ones costing you the most money. These items are costing you $246,000 in excess inventory. Almost 10% of your problem are these 5 items. So if you do nothing else on a daily, weekly basis, here's some items you might really want to pay some attention to. But that's where you have too much inventory right now. Hey, heads up, you've got some orders in place, and we're predicting that 411 items currently on order when they arrive are going to go straight to excess, costing you an additional $1.5 million in excess inventory. We call those surplus orders, and those would be orders you might want to review because they are candidates to maybe delay or even cancel the order. So the first 3 panels are giving you some heads up and some insight to those items that you currently have too much of. The next 3 panels are looking at the opposite side of the coin. Are there any items you don't have enough of? And it starts with what we call fill rate, which is over the last 30 days, did you have an item in stock or not to meet your demand? And right now you're achieving an 86% fill rate and doing it with $10.4 million of inventory. But you could be achieving a 97% target and doing it with much less inventory, in fact 6.9, if you had the right items in stock. So we're out of balance in Los Angeles. We have too much of the wrong inventory, but because we're not meeting our fill rate targets, there's other items we don't have enough of. In fact, there's some items that you're out of. There are 924 items in the Los Angeles warehouse with no inventory in stock, but there is demand on those items. So until you replenish, which is either until the next order arrives, if there's an order in place, or it's full lead time if you have to place an order from scratch. But during that window, the window where you have no inventory with demand, you're at risk of not being able to fulfill that demand, which means you could be at risk of not getting the sale. Does not mean you'll lose the sale, but you are at risk, and it could cost you as much as $841,000 while you're stocked out. Again, I can look at every item. These, again, are the top 5. These 5 items alone are costing you $158,000 in potential lost sales. Almost 25% of your problem is not 924 items, it's these 5. So these would be some items we highly recommend you pay some attention to. But that's where you're out right now. Again, heads up, here's some items you are about to run out of. And these are items that you have some inventory, but we're predicting before you can replenish, you will run out. And when you do, you could lose another $161,000 in sales. So day in the life of a planner, I could come in, I could toggle between my locations, and at the highest level, I can very quickly see what my inventory is, what the tool recommends it should be, where do I have too much inventory, what impact is that having on my business, which are the most critical to pay some attention to, are there any items I'm out of or about to run out of, what impact could that have on sales, which are the most critical to pay some attention to. Now from here, I could do a lot of things. I might want to pull up a few of these items to make some decisions, or I might just want to say, hey, Tom, show me everything I need to buy, and let's do both. So let's drill into an item. In fact, this first item, I don't know what it is, but if I hover, it'll give me the description. It is an important item to my business. It is stocked out. It could cost me $62,000 in lost sales. Let me click on the item to drill down into the detail. Now, the detail is laid out the same for every item, whether it's a finished good or a raw material. And what you're seeing is ST8128, as it currently sits in Los Angeles, is stocked out. And what Inventory Advisor is going to do is show you what your current inventory is and compare it to what it should be. So according to Sage 100, a data feed right out of Sage 100, right now your stock on hand, you have none, which is why you're stocked out. You have 133 on back order, which brings you to a negative position. The good news, though, you do have 1,080 on order as we speak with the Sorrel Auto Parts group. So, and when those arrive, less your back orders, you will have 947. So my million-dollar question is, when are those coming in? Well, I don't have to go back to Sage 100 and look up the purchase orders. If I scroll down, I can see several tabs, and one of them is just that. Here are the open purchase orders you have in Sage 100 for this item, and I can see right here in one place when those are coming in. And if those are coming in a timely manner, I'm probably done looking at this item. If not, I might want to expedite one of these orders, or I might want to see if I've got this item at another location. Here's what it looks like in Los Angeles. Here's what it looks like across all the other locations, and maybe I could move some items. So I have visibility to all the information to make decisions. But that's what your current inventory is. Let's talk about the power of the tool. It's going to tell you what your inventory should be. And it starts first and foremost with a forecast. It's pretty hard to determine what your inventory should be if you don't have a pretty good profile of your demand into the future. So Inventory Advisor will automatically load the sales history for every item. You can have 5 years. This item has 27 months of sales history, which is represented graphically in blue. Inventory Advisor is going to compare that pattern in blue to 15 different forecasting methods. So things like linear regression, exponential smoothing, sum of the year's digits. It's going to test for trends, patterns, spikes. And based on all of that information, Inventory Advisor has selected that that pattern in blue is best represented by a seasonal forecasting methodology, has selected that and used it to create a computer-generated forecast for the next 12 months, which is represented in yellow. So everything you see in this panel happened automatically. Inventory Advisor loaded the sales history, selected the best forecasting method, and has created a computer-generated forecast. Now, if you want to drill into that yellow and make some adjustments, perhaps you want to, you've got a big sales promotion on this item, you want to increase the forecast, or you're phasing this item out, you can absolutely drill into that yellow and make some adjustments to the forecast. But in any event, Inventory Advisor is going to track how is the forecast doing against actual sales, and it will alert you to any items whose forecast needs review. You're under or over forecasted. Now, the next thing that Inventory Advisor is going to do is it's going to recommend what's the minimum stock you should be carrying. And the reason you want to do that is things happen. Customers order more than you think, suppliers don't always deliver the right amounts, and you can set that in Sage 100 today. But the key is you can set it. And how did you set it? How did you calculate it? And how often do you update it? Most of my customers tell me it's kind of a best guess and they don't update it very often. Well, Inventory Advisor is going to recommend a minimum stock, we call it a safety stock, based on several very dynamic inputs. What is this item's contribution to your business? What is the lead time with this supplier? How is this supplier delivering against that lead time? Is my forecast accurate? And all that goes into the recommendation that for this item, you should be keeping 82 days of safety stock. Well, what in the world does that mean? Tom, I want to know how much of this item I should be stocking and when should I replenish? And that all comes together in this policy panel. And Inventory Advisor is going to drive that off the forecast. And in units, it's going to recommend a minimum stocking level, a reorder point, and a maximum stocking level. And those ranges are calculated for every item, at every location, every day. This is just one item, but let's compare that to what your stock on hand is. Remember that 947? Hey, that's already below the recommended reorder point. So Inventory Advisor is going to recommend you place an order to get you back to your max. So you should place an order today for 103 units. And Inventory Advisor is doing all of this for every item. Now, does that mean I've got to go look up every item to see if I need to place an order? Absolutely not. Let's go back to the dashboard. We started with the dashboard. We looked at a few items that are critical to our business. We drilled into some details so that we could make some decisions. But now I'm ready to just say, hey, Tom, show me a list of every item, like the one we just looked at. Show me a list of every item I need to order, and I'm going to produce what's called an order schedule, and with one click, show me everything I need to order for my Los Angeles warehouse, across all my suppliers, and here's the list. So I'm looking at a list of every item that has triggered its reorder point broken out by supplier. So for instance, the consolidated tire supplier. Inventory Advisor is recommending you place 5 items on order. You may order 100 items from that supplier, but today 5 have triggered a reorder point. Here's the units, the cost, and here's the cubic feet and weight, which might be helpful if you're trying to fill up a truck or a container. But now as a purchasing manager, I can review those recommendations, drill into detail as I need, maybe make adjustments along the way, but ultimately send that back to Sage as a purchase order. It'll be a file transfer, and I don't have to rekey. And at the end of the day, what most of our customers see when they use this tool is you'll start to see your inventory trend towards the model. You'll start to see your excess stock burn down as you manage it. And as you manage your potential stockouts, stop them before they become stockouts, and then manage your stockouts, you'll start to eliminate stockouts and improve customer service. And if you can eliminate stockouts and improve sales, eliminate excess inventory and free up working capital, and give planners tools to give them more planning recommendations driven off industry best practice and analytics, marry that with their expertise of their industry and company, again, the ROI can be quite substantial. But now, one more thing, and I'm not going to go into detail, but if I scroll down on the dashboard, there are a couple more tabs. And one of them is called data purity. And the reality of any planning tool is it's only as good as the data you feed to it. So Inventory Advisor is going to analyze the data you feed into Inventory Advisor and going to give you some insight. Hey, here's some items that you might want to review. You've got some overdue and outstanding purchase orders. But there are tools that will help you with your inventory in Sage 100 to even keep that more accurate. And so I'm going to turn this back over to you, Adrian, and we'll turn it back over to CertaPro.
Great, thanks so much, Tom. My name is Simon Quinn. I am the National Sales Manager for CertaPro Solutions, and I'm going to be discussing our Automated Inventory Cycle Count, or AICC, if you will. So again, Tom, thanks so much. That was a really great overview on how Sage Inventory Advisor helps with forecasting. So now I'm going to cover inventory accuracy. And I'm going to show you how CertaPro's Automated Inventory Cycle Counts will allow you to automate and simplify your inventory counts. Using cycle counting to maintain high levels of accuracy is one of the best ways to identify problem areas. An effective cycle counting program like CertaPro's AICC eliminates the need for physical inventory expenses. So every business unit within the company should really understand its impact on inventory accuracy. And many companies overlook this simple truth. Managing inventory accuracy effectively is key to business success. Obviously, you'll have to count inventory to determine the accuracy, as well as determining the areas that need additional evaluation. Now, I'm not knocking you accountants out there, but year-end physical inventories are tools that are used by accountants, but actually do very little for inventory accuracy. So by performing regular cycle counts, you give yourself an opportunity to compare the quantities in Sage to the quantities counted. And this variance is a powerful opportunity to identify where your inventory system is working well, little variance, and where you may have a control issue that needs to be tightened up, high variance. So if you notice that your numbers are way off, you now have an opportunity to find out why the problem is happening and take corrective action. Keep in mind, using regular cycle counts allows you to take corrective action more frequently. So for example, if you perform monthly cycle counts, you now have 12 opportunities to fix that problem versus 1 when performing annual physical inventory counts. So CertaPro's AICC is going to help you configure all of this for you. Another important difference between cycle counting and taking physical inventory annually, by having your warehouse staff perform cycle counts of segments of your inventory regularly, you negate the need for shutting down your operations for a weekend or a period of time just to make sure that your numbers are correct. Of course, we all know, closing down your business for any period of time can be costly, and paying your employees overtime to perform physical inventory counts can add up as well. So this is what our inventory cycle count can help you eliminate. I mean, imagine your day-to-day working life being made easier by being better organized with a clearly defined logic to your inventory planning processes. You're going to have more time to focus on what really matters. For example, your A items, the high-ticket items, and you're going to have less physical inventory expenses. I'm going to move over to Sage now and actually jump into the software and show you the functionality and how that works. You see my screen? So we've created the software under the inventory management physical count area. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. CPS inventory cycle count entry. And when you see, once we open this up, you'll see that this screen is actually a single screen user interface, which means it's simple to use and very simple to manage. Up in the upper left-hand corner, you have the warehouse code that can be alphanumeric, whatever you want it to be. And each warehouse that you input can have its own schedule. You can also configure what time you want to generate cycle counts per warehouse. And you can also set up automatic email notifications by warehouse also. So I'm going to go ahead and select a warehouse. And you see selecting warehouse 000, if you have multiple warehouses, you can go back and forth with these arrows here, and it will scan through each of the warehouses and bring up those items associated with it. So let's look at the grid. So the top grid is basically the filtering section. It allows you to go through and check or uncheck various boxes. You have valuations, you have product types, you have procurement, and clicking or checking off any one of these boxes automatically updates the middle grid. So the middle grid will represent any filtering choices and show you what you've assigned into the cycle count intervals, and we'll go through that. The bottom area here is the summary, and based on your setup, it shows you how many items per day that you will be counting. And over here is the count frequency that will allow you to configure the actual counts, which I'll show you in shortly. So jumping into this, I wanted to kind of show you how everything refreshes as I click through here down in the middle grid. And updating the cycle counts is actually very simple. So before I jump into that, I want to cover some of the abbreviations or the acronyms, if you will. So if you see YCC up here, it stands for yearly cycle count. The two letters next to it, RC, stands for remaining count. When you import items, or once we set up the actual inventory into your system, every single item is going to have a value of -1. And what -1 means is that the actual inventory item has not yet been touched or set up for counting within the inventory cycle count. By switching the code to either a 0 or a 1, that now brings it into the inventory count itself. And it's very simple to do so. So if I click on the upper left-hand corner, it's going to highlight all of these items that I've selected. And if I move down to the bottom, I can globally affect a count and just say I want to put in here, let's say I want all these items counted, let's go for 12. I'll click on sign, and now you'll see that the yearly cycle count has updated to 12. You can also break it out by individual line items by clicking here. And if I make a change down here to 9, it will only affect those items here. So YCC stands for yearly cycle count. Let's go through and talk about the other one, the remaining counts. And the remaining count's a powerful tool that allows you to set up items that are going to be discontinued. So we all know that there's going to be some items that are not going to be in your inventory perpetually. So this basically allows you to define how many more times you want them to be counted. And if I make this number 3, you'll see that now the yearly cycle count is set for 12, but the remaining count is going to be 3 more times. And once that remaining count actually does it 3 more times, the yearly cycle count is going to change to 0. I want to jump back up to some of the filtering areas, because while I just showed the check boxes, there's also a number of different areas that you can select as far as fields go. So for example, if I want to look at an item's price and I want to filter a price on items, I want to take a look at items that are greater than $1,000. So I can plug that in here. You'll see it automatically goes and grabs all of those items here, and I can create whatever yearly cycle count I want against those items. Over on the right side, it's going to have the description for each one of those items that I have selected. So some of the other buttons that are crossed here, FCNT, which is force count next time, force count all the time, FCAT, as well as hold. I'll just cover what that does. So for hold, we know that in every warehouse, there are scenarios where you will put certain items temporarily to hold, and you don't want those items to be included in the count. And you only want those items to be included back in the count once it's actually released back into inventory. And that's how you manage those items here. For force count next time, if you find a discrepancy and you want it to be resolved as soon as possible, the item in question might be scheduled for a count 2 months from now, but you don't want to wait. You don't want to have to wait for that to happen. So by checking this box, it's going to generate the cycle count and it's going to include it. Force count all the time is pretty self-explanatory. If you click in here, it's going to force the count for that item on every single count. So down in the summary box down here, you'll see it's going to break down the actual, it displays based on my setup how many items I need to count each day. So I can actually see what the actual count number is. Now, in the upper right-hand part of the screen, we have a couple of items here. So if I click on the scheduler, once you've actually set up your items to be counted, you'll see that we have simply used the task scheduler from Sage 100. And here you can schedule what days of the week that you actually want to run the cycle count. Moving over to the Active Warehouse button, this is where you will select a warehouse and either choose to make it active or inactive. It will list all of your warehouses that are associated with your account. Now, clicking on options, there's a number of different options here that you can set up. Over on the right side is the email setup. So here is the email addresses that you will input. So when an email is sent to a warehouse employee or whoever is set up to do the actual count, this is where you will configure all of that. On the left side, on the generation portion of it, you have various options that you can include on those notifications. One of them, the rollover YCC count from large to small, is a very powerful one. What it actually does is it will allow you to go through all your A, B, C, and D items, all the ranking, and once all of the A items have been counted, it will pull the items from the B category to maintain the same number of items to be counted per day, based on my example. We also have exception days. So for example, if I select today, for whatever reason, it might be a holiday, I can write a description in here, or let's say I have an employee that's on vacation. I can select the type and either put vacation or holiday, and it's going to stop the count for that day. The exception days allows you basically, the holiday type will apply to all warehouses, and the vacation type will apply to a single warehouse. The last button over here that I will cover is the manual generation, and that's pretty straightforward. This allows you to manually generate a physical count for the warehouse. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and click on create, and now it's actually sending the email to the physical count, and I get an alert that this has been generated successfully for warehouse 000. I also wanted to point out, as I skip in the middle grid, that any listing of item that you have, if you right-click, you can export any of these items to Excel, as well as import them from Excel if you made any changes, and it will come right back into the system. So let's take a look at what the actual warehouse person will get on the email. So here's the spreadsheet. If I open it up, you will see that this is the list for the items that I have selected. So this is what the employee will actually take out to the warehouse. It'll have all the information on the item, the description of what the item is, the bin location, and the last date count. And so this is where they will physically enter the actual count. Now, if you have a warehouse management system using scanners, all this information will be located on there, and you can use the scanners to complete the same task. So once this has been created, and you're ready to go into the actual physical count entry program, we'll click on here, and we'll enter in our warehouse that we've been working with on the demo, and we'll click on lines, and here you will see the items that I have selected to be counted, and this is where, based on if it's scanned in, it would automatically be populated, or if you have the spreadsheet, you will go ahead and actually put the numbers in here. So once this cycle count has actually been run, you obviously want to know the results. How accurate is my inventory? And so for this reason, we've created what's called the CPS inventory cycle count history. When I open that up here, you will see that this is the place where you're going to find the items that not only have a discrepancy, but also all of the items that you've counted throughout the year that have actually been accurate. All of this is exportable to Excel. So here you can look into how many items have been counted each day. What was the quantity? What was the counted quantity and the additional info? And it's completely customizable. So for those users that are familiar with Explorer, you can actually drag and drop files and use filters to analyze the data. If I click down here, I wanted to see a little more detail on some of the log. There's some detail on the lot view as well. Again, this is all exportable to Excel, and I'm going to hand this back over to Adrian so we can take any questions.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Tom. Great presentations. I'm going to go ahead and show your contact information. And I have a poll to ask, and I'll read off the questions. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll for the audience. If I could get you to answer this poll, that would be awesome. So are you interested in learning more about any of the following? So either automated inventory accounts or inventory stock forecasting. And let's see if we have any questions here. So Simon, how are these two products related? Is there a direct integration between the two? Or are they both standalone and integrating into Sage 100? How do they work together?
So basically, and this was one of the benefits of doing this seminar together, was to really differentiate between the two products. So the Sage Inventory Advisor is basically used for forecasting, and the automated inventory cycle count is used for accuracy. So they are two standalone products, but they do work together extremely well.
So they're definitely...
And they both interface to Sage 100. So
that's correct.
The counting will work with Sage 100 to make sure that the inventory stocking levels in Sage 100 are accurately reflected of what's physically out on the shop floor or the stocking level floor. Inventory Advisor will take that now accurate inventory as an input to its planning engine. So they don't necessarily connect together, but they connect through Sage 100.
And we do have a question about cost. Thank you, Jimmy, for your question. Jimmy's asking if there's a monthly subscription or an annual fee.
So for Inventory Advisor, there is a monthly subscription. There is a one-time setup fee of $2,250, which covers Sage's cost of setting up your instance of Inventory Advisor on a Sage-provided server, setting up the connector to your Sage 100 server, loading your data, providing training, and some consulting services to get you up and running. And then there is a monthly subscription, and it's based on the value of the inventory that you're planning in Inventory Advisor, which is how we keep this scalable across our larger and smaller customers. And so it kind of ranges from, kind of on average, and I'd be glad to give you an exact price if you give me your inventory valuation, but it kind of ranges between $300 and $500 a month.
And how about you, Simon? Do you offer a monthly subscription or an annual fee?
Yeah, thank you. It is subscription-based also, very similar to Sage Inventory Advisor. So depending on the number of warehouses, we have a pricing structure that's based on the number of warehouses. So if you have one warehouse, you have an option to bill it annually or monthly, and that price is broken out per month. So for example, the activation fee is a one-time of $7.99, and if you have one warehouse, your price per month on an annual basis would be $169. And it's tiered from there. So if there are specific questions, feel free to contact us directly, and we'll do a much more in-depth demo as well as provide specific quotes for your needs.
And do you offer any ROI calculators where you can see the cost savings associated with the investment?
For Inventory Advisor, I do have a couple, and I'll be glad to share those.
And then we do have another question here. Thank you, Jay, for your question. What is the advantage of automated inventory counts versus existing cycle count processes, counting all items in a quarter?
Hi, Adrian. Can you repeat the question again, please? This is Andy.
Hi, Andy. A question is from Jay, and thank you, Jay, for that question. What is the advantage of automated inventory counts versus existing cycle count processes, counting all items in a quarter?
Well, this one is actually going to give you an ability to count every day. And as you go through the schedule, you can identify your A, B, C, D item ranking, and then you can have A items to be counted pretty much every week if you want to, or every day versus like doing every quarter. And it's going to cut the number of items into the small pieces, like you're going to be counting less items throughout the year, and then instead of doing like one time quarterly. The idea is you count less items throughout the year than instead of doing a big physical inventory once a quarter or once a year.
And then we have another question from Jimmy. Thank you. Does the program integrate with ScanCo or ACS Multibin?
Yes, it does. We have full integration with both.
And another question from Jay. Thank you. Does it look at increasing the frequency of A items as opposed to B and C items?
Yeah, so when you go into our program, you can identify your A and B items, and you can put different type of a yearly cycle count codes. So for A items, you can say, I want to count 52 times a year. And for B items, you can say that I want to count once a month, and that's all customizable. The YCC yearly cycle count code allows you to set up everything from 0 all the way to 52.
And then Eddie, thank you for this question. On what versions of Sage 100 do these applications work?
It works on all of them.
For Sage Inventory Advisor, it's 4.3 and above.
And for automated
go ahead.
inventory, all of them.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so I see we're at 66% of our poll. If we could get to 100%, that would be great. I'm going to go ahead and leave this up for another second or two and then close it out, flash up the contact information for both Tom and Simon. And we did record this webinar. We'll be sending the recording in a follow-up email automatically to everybody who registered, and the contact information as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close out the poll and share the results. So it looks like 75% of you are interested in automated inventory counts, and 46% of you are interested in inventory stock forecasting. Thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. We know that an hour of your time is not easy to come by, so we sure appreciate you spending it with us and learning about these solutions. And Simon, Tom, would you like to offer any closing comments?
Oh, Tom, just thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Simon. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. And if you have any follow-on questions about Inventory Advisor, or you'd like to have a little deeper discussion about how it might impact your environment, just reach out, shoot me an email or call me at the contact information there, and I'd be delighted to set up a follow-on conversation.
Yeah, same goes with us. Thank you so much, Adrian. Thank you, Tom, for everything. And as Tom outlined, feel free to reach out to us directly or through your partner to learn more about it, or to set up a specific demo that's going to be more unique to your actual requirements. We'd be happy to do so.
Awesome. All right, everybody, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.